Alright, let's do it. Beautiful. Yo, bom dia. That means good morning in Portuguese. Happy Sunday. Hope everyone's doing well. Beautiful day. My name's Ian. I'm a man of God, a devoted father, aspiring footballer, and a friend to all. Today I'm going to do my best to show analogies between God and football that can maybe paint a perspective for some of you by showing the use of faith, sacrifice, and embracement. Whether you're religious or not, or whether you play football or not, maybe listen for a bit and see if your perspective can maybe shift too. I believe this story can generally relate to your daily life or your own family, career, or hobbies. Today I want to go over Exodus, specifically the story of Moses. And here's a breakdown to the best of my knowledge. You have Moses, who was born a Hebrew. 3 months after his birth, his family had casted him away down a river in a basket to protect him from the pharaohs. The pharaoh's intent was to slaughter the sons of the Hebrews. Moses' older sister would follow and watch close by as he drifts down the river to his new home. Unknowingly, Moses was found and raised by the... Beautiful here. Sorry, I'm out in Portugal. I'm a footballer from the United States, and I'm in love with it out here, man. I just feel God's spirit, and it's very happy, healthy, beautiful out here. Unfortunately for the Hebrews, they were forced to live a gruesome lifestyle of slavery underneath the powerful pharaohs. As Moses grew older, he ended up becoming one of the heads of the pharaohs after his father, the ruler of the pharaohs, passed this torch on to Moses and his brother Aaron before he passed away. After some time of being a head of the pharaohs, Moses ran into his blood brother and sister from his Hebrew family. They told him that he was not a pharaoh, putting their lives in deep danger by stepping up to one of their masters in this way. Moses refused to accept this, but soon God would display dreams or visions to Moses, in which he could not deny this being the truth. These visions led Moses into seeing the cruel reality in which he felt tons of guilt towards the slaves and Hebrews, which were his own people. Exodus chapter 2, verse 11. And this is my first time doing this, so please bear with me. I do have hopes to become a preacher one day. Gotta start somewhere, right? Anyways, this action of guilt and speaking up caused Moses to be banished from the pharaohs, in which Moses would find himself soon alongside and belonging with the Hebrews while meeting a priest. And this priest Moses would soon see and feel as if they are not deserving of the slavery and cruel lifestyle they must live underneath the pharaohs. This is when God really started to speak to Moses through a special flaming bush, and where faith comes into the picture. Exodus 3, verse 2. Moses did not believe the things that were being told to him until God started to perform miracles in front of his own eyes and filling them with his own hands. The power of God is no joke, and I can personally tell you this. To me, you either meet God by witnessing miracles or, sky highs, moments of greatness, where you have no explanation for how it's happened other than saying, thanks to him, this is why this has happened. Or you can meet him at rock lows, when you're at the bottom and you have no one to talk to and you don't feel you can get an answer from anyone. That's when God appeared in my life. I pray you meet him the first way. Anyways, sorry, there's cars passing. So we've got a flaming bush. This is where they're speaking to Moses, and to me this is where faith comes into the picture. Moses did not believe the things that God was saying to him until, like I said, he started to perform miracles in front of his own eyes and filling them with his own hands. If you don't believe, of course it's hard for you to understand, but maybe after witnessing Maybe after personally reformed, would you then believe yourself? Sorry. God would now send Moses on a mission to free his people and to put an end to the dark ruling by the pharaohs. The finish line of the mission would be a dream come true for the Hebrews. A land with no rulers, enough food for every soul, and rich land for the animals and humans to live in peace. Let's call this place the Promised Land. Of course, this was not appealing to the people in power, such as Aaron and the pharaohs. But Moses had faith in this mission without truly knowing what lies ahead. Moses would soon return to the pharaohs, in which they believed he was dead. Now as he returns, he is coming with a different nature and simply asks Aaron, the new emperor, and his former brother, to free the Hebrews and to bring them to this promised land, which Aaron did not tolerate. This would cause issues between the two tribes. Of course, the pharaohs wanted to remain in power, with their lives being built upon the backs of the Hebrews. Bunch of cars. Aaron would deny this opportunity to free the slaves. Moses struggled, accepting that he cannot prove the promised land is real, in which he would do his best to demonstrate miracles through God. God blessed Moses with a special staff that could transform from hard wood into a snake and then back into a staff. Exodus chapter 4, verse 3. Some pharaohs were in shock after seeing this, while others claimed it to be a trick. Exodus chapter 7, verse 11. To me, sacrifice is important here. Moses would sacrifice his own prestigious and luxurious lifestyle with the pharaohs, as well as make a huge sacrifice and leap of faith trying to save the slaves and bring them to this promised land. God would teach Moses different approaches to try and prove his point, but time after time, Aaron and the pharaohs would deny, even after seeing many miracles performed in front of them. After so long, God would punish the pharaohs for not believing this and for treating God's people as slaves. I like to call this karma, and very real. More specifically, there would be 10 scary plagues that would bring harm to the pharaohs, which would soon lead many of them to believe the power of God is real. Exodus chapter 11, verse 1. But not Aaron, who was very stubborn and stern on his stance. Embracing all of the pain, death, and harm caused to Moses and his people, he kept his faith in God's power and the dream of making it to this promised land. Moses would warn Aaron that there will be a great pain, something unforgettable. Almost fell. Something unforgettable that would happen and hurt the pharaohs so terribly that the pharaohs would almost have no choice other than be forced to believe. This is when God would take the souls of the firstborn children and animals of the pharaohs, including Aaron's own son. Exodus chapter 13, verse 14 and 15. This would bring much anger and pain to Aaron, who would finally release Moses to leave with his people. But shortly after, the rage and anger would add up and take a turn, leading Aaron to command the pharaohs to chase after the Hebrews and slaughter them. This is where God would perform more miracles. The main ones for me, fire from the skies and splitting of the seas. Real important. And this is Exodus chapter 14, verse 21 through 30. Moses would use God's amazing power with his staff, splitting the seas to open up a path for the Hebrews to cross as the pharaohs were chasing in the near horizon. God's perfect timing would allow the Hebrews to barely make it across, with the seas parting back together over the pharaohs who were closing in, wiping them all away to death. Now Moses and God's people who followed and believed would be welcomed to the promised land, filled with milk and honey for all. Now, how does all this relate to my life and football personally? A couple ways. Like Moses, I grew up with a brother that was not truly my blood brother, but he was my blood cousin. My parents took him in shortly after his birth. when both of his parents passed away before he was just 3 months old, like Moses. My mother and father raised him as their own after my aunt and uncle passed away. Shortly after, there's people walking in town. Let's see. Shortly after, they found out they were going to bring me, their own son, into the world. Being raised together, if you know my brother and myself personally, along with both of our biological parents, you wouldn't be able to deny that the apple does not fall far from the tree. We were both raised by an amazing stepfather. So you have my stepfather, his name is Christian Michael Shamandel, and I was adopted, but my name's Ian Michael Shamandel. And it's not like my mom planned this, she got remarried, but you have Ian Michael Shamandel, and if you add Christ, what name do you get? Christian Michael Shamandel. Crazy. That God's timing, huh? Bells ringing? So normally I go to church, but I'm here in Portugal and I'm not fluent in Portuguese. So I do worship on my own, but today I figured we'd try to do something else, and God's been telling me maybe it's time for me to start speaking rather than going in and just worshiping and listening. So and there's been a festival in town the past couple days, but I think they're done setting it all up and putting everything away today. So we'll go walk around and I'll go take a seat in a little special spot I found over there. Anyways, stepfather, biological parents, all this crazy stuff. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? But the thing that's crazy is, yeah, we were both raised by an amazing stepfather, which we're both grateful for. But as time passed, my brother became so similar to his biological father without ever even knowing him, as I am myself with my own father, and I only spent 1 week, out of every year going to visit him in California. Look at this. Rest in peace. It's beautiful. With all due respect, but wow. Something else out here, man. Look at that. So, yeah. We're very similar to our fathers without really spending time with them. My brother didn't even know his father. And to me, let's just call this destiny. So although I was separated from my biological father at a very young age, I'm thankful to have 2 great fathers in my life and healthy relationships with both. But no matter how much I looked up to and loved my stepfather, it's almost as if God couldn't separate the blood and my destiny that truly awaited from my biological bloodline. And this destiny I believe God has for me, it includes musical connection, as my father is an amazing musician, fascination with electric abilities, as my father is a very well-known electrician in California, and I find myself seeing very abnormal instances with electricity, light, and thunderstorms. Boom. My father was also an amazing athlete and footballer. I'm currently on the verge of potentially becoming a pro footballer in Europe. And then my father also spent years trying to prove himself as a good man and father, even during long distance separation and living a very hard life with many adversities to come. Soon be put into similar shoes. Here, we're at my spot. Show you real quick. I like it. A little sacred to me. I was born in 1996, right? 6 since 96. And we have this. I love it. It's so simple, but it's so beautiful. And I wonder how long it's been here, man. I love it. Let's take a seat right here and finish. Oh. So yeah, put into similar shoes of my father. So just some relations there. In terms of football and relating to the story, to Exodus and the story of Moses, I always felt as if there was magic to my talent with the game of football. Something my father and uncle taught me when I was younger was how to do backflips. To me, as I practiced this skill and combined it with my football skill set, I would like to call this ability my staff. This combination of the two skills would be what I call a miracle. It's helped me shock others and stand out, which I know has truly helped my name get out into the football world and have others see the skill set in awe, including a football agent from Portugal many years down the road, which is where I'm at now. This staff would be something that some would laugh at or believe to not be useful in any way. Others believed it was special and it would potentially carry me to a beautiful destination very far away one day if I utilized it properly with my football skills. Let's call this destination the Promised Land. Ding. God's timing. Beautiful. So it took a shepherd who is my agent to me and the priest of the Hebrews to Moses to help me see the potential that could be reached if I used the power of God and my staff correctly. Down the road, it could potentially save or help others escape their harder lives or careers with football and come with me into the Promised Land to what I would soon recognize to be playing football in Europe. Dream come true. Something that I know myself and many others from the U.S. have had a dream of doing. Something that the U.S. simply cannot compare to. The football system in the States is broken and rigged with too much talent being overlooked. They're out for money or attraction and typically only offer roster spots to players that have big names, come from lots of money, or played for prestigious programs since a young age. My agent, similar to the shepherd to Moses, had told me that this path would not be easy when he met me if I wanted to follow. But this is where faith, sacrifice, and embracement come into play. Faith. It's been very difficult myself to believe that even I can personally get to this promised land myself. God willing, at times I didn't believe it was possible. It's important to have faith, and I was tested while telling others there is a promised land out there, which is why I continue to competitively play aside from simply enjoying this beautiful game. Even as I battled many hardships during my football career, God always told me not to give up. And this could be my destiny all along, as God also spoke to Moses and told him that he could get to the promised land himself if he had faith and listened to God's plans for him. This promised land was not only for Moses himself, as I don't believe it's only for myself to selfishly chase after, but for others too. Now God would tell Moses he is on a mission to rescue his people and bring them to this promised land, as my agent also tells me that I should do my best to recruit quality players and believers of God to Europe. Nothing to do with status, names, or money, unlike the U.S. system. Thank God. Moses would ask God time and time again, how can he explain to them it's possible to reach the promised land when he doesn't even know what it looks like himself? This is God's test of faith. For my mission, I would do my best to recruit players, but some of them wouldn't believe this promised land to be true, since I wasn't quite there yet myself. Unless maybe miracles were performed in front of their very own eyes, or they saw proof in big professional contracts. Then would they follow? It's very tough for me trying to set others on this path and destiny that I know awaits some of them, but they don't see me at the destination of the promised land quite yet, so they will laugh or not believe that I am truly trying to bring them there along with me. Thankfully, a few have followed and gone through this process. The thing is, you can separate the believers from those who don't based on them wanting instant gratification, fame, money, all within the first year, and expect everything to be paid for and taken care of simply because you have some interest in their talent with football and you're trying to recruit them. It's funny because it never works this way. Not for me, it never did for Messi or Ronaldo. They all had to start small and work their way up, as I am doing myself. Also, handing someone everything straight away teaches them nothing. This is the other test of faith that God has painted for me and others. Who will pass this test? Will you take the leap of faith with me? Will you sacrifice and do nearly anything to make it to this promised land? This takes me to my next point, which is sacrifice. Alright, so sacrifice. Time and time again, I'm starting to lose track of all the things I've had to sacrifice in order to try and save my people, as well as try to make it to this promised land while providing a healthy and happy lifestyle for my daughter. The main things that have helped me learn how to sacrifice are simply realizing that if God can sacrifice his own son for all people, then why can't I sacrifice some time or a part of my relationship with my daughter? Some may call this selfish, but God tells me that I have more people to focus on saving rather than just myself and my own daughter. If I can make it to the promised land and help many others, this would certainly benefit my daughter down the road, right? After battling and sacrificing so much in a recent 2-year custody dispute to earn a good custody position in my daughter's life, now I would be finding myself sacrificing that and giving away my time with my daughter in order to fulfill God's mission for me. Now I'm sacrificing my comfort, other potential careers, having instant finances, relationships with women, or time with family and friends. I'm finding myself sacrificing certain foods, habits, pleasures. Of course, there's a lot to it. The main things helping me feel at ease making these choices or sacrifices is the fact that if my fathers were able to get through their many hardships and adversities, then why can't I do it too? If Moses could sacrifice everything he knew, then why can't I sacrifice a bit of what I know? If God can sacrifice his son, why can't I sacrifice some of my daughter? Now, as we're getting closer to reaching people and taking them to this promised land, there are so many sacrifices and choices to be made in order to instill our ways into the promised land. If I can give up and sacrifice many of these things that I love, maybe others will see this and it will inspire them to understand that they can do it too. It may hurt a lot in the moment, accepting or embracing lots of guilt, shame, or pain. But in the end, if we reach this promised land with those that we love, would you say all the hurt and embracing was worth it? This takes me to my last segment, which is embracement. Embracing or accepting can be the hardest part of the journey, in my opinion. It can be more difficult than having blind hopes and faith, or it may also hurt more than the sacrifices alone themselves. Will you accept how things need to be in order to make it to this promised land? Times of loneliness, losing people or things you love, others laughing at you, shaming you, or not believing. Moses had to embrace losing everything he grew up knowing as he was raised by the pharaohs, and then later returning to go against them in order to fulfill his purpose of what God would later tell him was his destiny of freeing the Hebrews. Similar to what I said about sacrifices, God, Moses, and my fathers help remind me that if they can all embrace all of their pain and adversities thrown their way, then why can't I? And why can't you? God's blind journey for us can remind you that you can make it through the struggles. Feel it, embrace it, and it's okay to accept it. This will help you grow and become stronger for those around you. In the end, what you'll be accepting and embracing in the promised land would hopefully be love, happiness, and glory. Can you weather the storms and stay strong until the destination? Are heaven and hell a place outside of the world, or can you currently see it here for yourself and through others during your time here on earth, before eternal life in heaven or hell? I feel as if I'm starting to see scary plagues taking part back home in the States. Even though I grew up thinking it's the best and happiest place on earth, similar to Moses with the pharaohs, my time here in Europe has simply changed what I believe America to be, and it scares me seeing all of the sin, ego, lust, greed, lab-grown foods, school shootings, political nightmares, programs full of scams, creations of new gender identities, mental health issues, common drug addictions, OnlyFans accounts, obesity, and the list goes on. Of course, these problems exist everywhere, but to me, it's not comparable to how wide and commonly spread it is in the United States. As a man of God, I feel I need to help change to the best of my ability without showing any hatred or causing harm onto others. I am your friend. And if I can't make an impact, then maybe it's my job to try and bring others to what I know as the new promised land here in Europe. Full of friendly, healthy, beautiful, and religious people. They're right with God. They're not as commonly concerned with status, fame, power, lust, and I feel very safe to walk around the streets with my daughter here, let alone let her walk around herself. And there's many more. How about you? This choice is yours. Anyways, I hope you learned something valuable from this. This is my first time sharing like this, and like I said, I do have hopes of becoming a preacher someday. I would love to hear feedback on what I can do better for next time, please, or feedback on how this testament can relate to you or help you. The video clips that I'm going to be using in this video are from a movie called The Prince of Egypt, a Disney film I grew up watching with my mother. I highly recommend you watch it if you haven't before. And the footy or soccer clips that I'm going to be using are my own. The scriptures used for this segment are from the chapters 1 through 14 in the book of Exodus in the Holy Bible. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys have a good Sunday. I hope this resonates with some of you. Maybe shifts the perspective for some believers and maybe even non-believers. You guys have a good day.